Greetings from sunny Northern California, where in just a matter of moments, history will be made here at Sonoma Raceway with the inaugural round of the brand new GT America powered by AWS Championship. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Marine, joined here this afternoon by Joe Jordan. Unfortunately, our normal colleague Calvin Fish, dealing with a small medical issue, couldn't make the trip. We'll have him back alongside at Circuit of the Americas, the next round of the championship. Meanwhile, Amanda Busick is down in the pit lane. We'll be hearing from her shortly, but now a look at the pole sitter for the first ever race in GT America powered by AWS, a mix of GT3 and GT4 spec cars. 40 minutes, no pit stop, single driver, Joe. Pure sprint racing at its finest.
Yeah, it should be really fun to see the mix of cars between GT3 and GT4. The first time we'll see them together in a race like this, and in an old school racetrack, a track that hasn't been paved in a while, so it's low grip. We should see a lot of action between these two types of cars.
There you see the weather conditions, just a slight breeze, as you see with the American flag there. 17, make that 11 degrees Celsius. That's around 57 degrees Fahrenheit for those of us here in the States. Perfect track conditions, warming up from what we saw in qualifying this morning. These cars really put on a show in qualifying, Joe. Really searching for grip on a cold track and a green track after some rain overnight.
Yeah, the overnight rain really changed the track, and they were looking for grip anywhere they could. And I talked earlier about being old school track. It doesn't have a lot of grip, so you really have to find it. As the race goes on, I expect there to be some tire drag and to see cars losing time. So it's going to be a matter of who takes care of their tires the best. These Pirellis are awesome tires, but it's just the nature of a green track and a low grip track that's going to come into play this afternoon.
It is a track surface that has the reputation for being very abrasive, and time drop-off over the course of the run corresponding to the tire drop-off, certainly one of the storylines anytime you come to Sonoma Raceway. There's a look at the grid of cars. We saw the GT3 car of George Kurtz on the pole, and he'll be leading this field to green. But let's take a look at this Sonoma Raceway layout with our Porsche track preview, courtesy of Wright Motorsports driver Jan Halen.
Hi, my name is Jan Halen. We're here at Sonoma Raceway with Wright Motorsports for the Porsche track preview. We're getting ready to start the lap, coming onto the front straightaway here. Up through the gears, all the way to 6th gear, up to 145 mile an hour. It's the fastest part of the track. Very bumpy, going uphill, braking into turn 2. Down to 2nd gear, car gets very light here on the exit. Accelerating out, getting ready for turn 3. Lots of compression at the apex of 3 here. 85 mile an hour, 3rd gear, back to power. Car again getting very light on the exit and hard on the brakes for turn 4. 1st to 2nd gear, accelerating out, getting ready for the carousel, up the hill, very tricky braking. 4th gear, down to 3rd, car again getting light on the brakes, and then preparing for a good exit onto the back straightaway. 3rd, back through the gears, 5th gear, all the way up to 140 mile an hour, and then hard on the brakes for the hairpin, down to 2nd, back to power. Car slides around a ton here, so got to be careful how to apply the power. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, getting ready for the S's. Small lift only, back to power, and ready for the S's. Hard on the brakes here at the 300. Lots of dust flying up here. Hard on the curbs, back to power. 1st gear, back to power. Sweeping right, flat out, getting ready for the last corner. Tight hairpin, 1st gear. All about getting a good exit here. Good rotation, hard back to power, and back onto the front straightaway. And that was a lap at Sonoma Raceway in the Porsche GT3R.
Great look at this Sonoma Raceway circuit, the layout being used here this weekend. 12 turns, a shade over 2.5 miles, and you saw it from that onboard video, 160 feet of elevation change from the highest point in turn 3A, where the field just went through a moment ago, down to turn 10. Nearly 15 stories the difference between high point and low point around this track. One of the many reasons it is so revered as a great challenge for all road racing drivers who aspire to come here.
Yeah, it's a challenge also because there's a lot of blind corners. So you're cresting hills and you can't see around the corner ahead of you. So it's all about commitment at this track and belief that it's a clear track and you're going to be able to use every bit of that road. So a wonderful track. Great to see these cars. I'm excited to see them run out here today with those GT4 cars too.
The starting grid up on the screen. First row, George Kurtz snagged the pole away from Jason Daskalos by over 1.5 seconds with a late flyer in qualifying this morning. Charlie Luck, Dmitry Novikov in row 2. Jeff Burton leads Kyle Washington in row 3. Jason Harward, the final of the GT3 runners, while Rob Holland, a returnee to the series. Been a little while, though. He is the pole sitter in GT4, starting in the outside of row 4. Sean Quinlan, Jason Bell, row 5. Phil Bloom and Adam Adelson in row 12. Dan Miller, Alex Welch, Rosh West, and Matt Dalton. Elias Sabo, Gray Newell lining up in row number 9, and Tim Pappas did not set a lap in qualifying. Is scheduled to start at the back of the grid. Not sure what the problem was with the Black Swan Racing team. Hopefully he's been able to answer the call. This is the first of what I believe will be 2 pace laps based on what was communicated to the teams earlier in the weekend. So we'll keep a close eye on that Lamborghini Urus safety car, the new official safety car of SRO America. Beautiful car. Really, really cool to see Lamborghini's increased commitment to the series, and as it stays out on track, we can confirm 2 pace laps. And the reason behind that, Joe, cold temperatures, trying to make sure that these drivers have everything they need to be able to go racing in a clean fashion after the end of this second pace lap.
Yeah, the key is getting the tires warm and the brakes up to temperature so that it's a nice, safe, clean start. And, it takes a little while to do that on a cold, it's a cold, it feels like a fall day, not a spring day to me. And so it takes 2 laps to get them up and running.
The only giveaway that it's not the fall is the green grass around this track. You know you're here in the spring because you don't see that grass. It is a lot of dirt and dust when you come back here later on in the year. Really a beautiful time to be in Northern California here right now. Again, George Kurtz on the pole, the first ever pole position in the history of this brand new series. Mentioned the race format, single driver, 40 minutes, mixed class. In a lot of ways, it's a throwback to the roots of what was then Pirelli World Challenge, now SRO America.
Yeah, it is very much like it used to be. Back when in my younger days when I ran in this series, it was mixed classes in almost every category that you ran. And it takes a little bit of a different driving style, a little more patience if you're one of the faster cars. And, if you're a GT4 car and you're getting caught up by the leaders in GT3, you have to be smart about where you let them pass. So some different strategies that come into play when it's a mixed class racing.
I want to talk a little bit about our GT4 pole sitter, Rob Holland. A great story. Done a lot of racing over in Europe in recent years. British touring cars, a lot at the Nürburgring, but had a chance to come back to the States, race here once again in a series he has a lot of experience in, but it's been a while since he's raced in the U.S. Really cool deal as well with a diversity initiative that Rob has started, and you look at some of his crew. His thought process has been, let's give opportunities to a diverse set of folks who might not have even known that racing was an option for them, and it's really cool to see that being embraced. There's a number of diversity initiatives up and down the paddock here in SRO America, but my favorite Rob Holland story is he raced in an FIA World Touring Car race here at Sonoma about 5 or 6 years ago, got a last-minute call to be here, and represented the United States effectively in that field and ran really well, actually scored some points, and he's got some happy memories coming back to Sonoma Raceway.
Yeah, and he also has done the Pikes Peak Hill Climb to talk about international events, and here they come down into turn 11.
So the field coming into alignment, the front row on the outside, you see George Kurtz in the DXDT Racing Mercedes. To the inside, Jason Daskalos in the Daskalos Motorsports Audi, coming around the hairpin here and getting ready to make that launch to the green flag. Pretty good formation back of the field, straggling just a little bit, but still time. Lamborghini Urus-Pace car about to disappear from sight around the curve there in the pit lane. And now just looking for the green flag around turn 12. George Kurtz gets the jump at the start. The green flag waves. Daskalos falls in line, and the battle is for third. Look at the GT4 field fanning out. Clean start up at the front. Wide there at the start from Matt Dalton. He's able to bring his Aston Martin back under control. And by and large, single file up the hill here for the first time.
It looks like in GT4, Quinlan in the BMW got by the Mustang of Holland as they head into turn 3A down the hill to turn 4.
And look at that drop of elevation here. Really challenging getting on the brakes, especially on the cold tires. George Kurtz able to get away early on. Jason Daskalos running second. Charlie Luck, the leader in the Masters division of the GT3 category. That's for drivers 55 and older. Runs in third overall, first in class, being chased by Dmitry Novikov and Jeff Burton.
Yeah, it's good to see Charlie Luck out here, and he's a pretty quick Masters driver, as you can see. Not Right Motorsports Porsche, they always have a really quick team, and he's doing a good job early on.
That's Jason Harward in the Zelus Motorsports Lamborghini, working the crossover there, trying to find a way past the GMG Racing Porsche just up the road. That's Kyle Washington, who has some GT2 experience in SRO America. He got up over that curb a little bit, and that's going to open up the opportunity for Harward to dive to the inside. Gets it done in his first ever pro race. A great start from him in a brand new team that was supposed to contest not just this race, but also the GT World Challenge America races. Mentioned it's a new team. Pit equipment didn't show up in time, so they're going to focus on the non-pit stop races of GT America with an expanded program coming at Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, that would be a challenge to do the Sprint X race without pit equipment. So
it would indeed.
Good choice.
Opening lap complete, nice and clean for this field that is, by the way, restricted to bronze-rated drivers, so less experienced for drivers who don't make their living driving race cars, but nevertheless take their racing extremely seriously. And all of these teams are very high-caliber, professional-level racing teams. It's a great platform for people to make that step into GT4 or GT3 machinery.
And in third place in GT4, we got Bell, who has switched over to an Aston Martin, so it's unique to see him in that car. Looks like he's putting a little pressure early on in the Mustang. It appears that the Aston Martin tends to be an easier car over the curbs than the Mustang, and you'll see him using the curbs quite a bit as we go throughout this race.
This is the fight for second in GT4. Rob Holland in the Mustang. Jason Bell in the Aston Martin. You're right, he was running Porsches previously. Has some experience with a bunch of different brands, actually, but settled on the Aston Martin over the winter and is looking really strong. Speaking to his co-driver in Sprint X GT4 competition, that would be Andrew Davis. He says Jason really likes this car. It just suits him for whatever reason. And he's showing that here early, heaping the pressure on a very experienced driver in Rob Holland.
Yeah, it looks like in fourth in GT4 is also Phil Bloom, who is in the classic BMW. He's moved up from touring car from last year. So as usual, we see drivers moving up and down the ranks of SRO.
This is Sean Quinlan leading the way. Had an issue in qualifying at the very end. The car was pointed the wrong direction, and it seemed like it was stuck because it stayed there for quite some time, but clearly whatever the problem was has been resolved, and a great start from him, able to jump up into the lead. Did so from effectively the second row of the GT4 class, qualified second in class, and was able to get the jump on Holland there at the start. Holland here, though, under pressure from Bell, who has just come a long way over the last few years, gaining experience behind the wheel, runs a lot of races, had a very extensive program last year that saw him running definitely around the 20 or 30 race range, and is putting that experience to use as we drop a little bit further back here. Mercedes leading Audi. That would be Welch chasing Schwest in the fight for the fifth position in GT4. Great stuff here at the exit of the carousel for the second position in GT4. This is your overall leader, George Kurtz, making his escape. Look at that. After 2 laps, the gap already nearly 5 seconds back to Jason Daskalos, who was really stout in qualifying but has fallen off the pace here in the first 5 minutes, still very early stages. And Charlie Luck now starting to reel him in. We might have a fight for second overall on our hands before much longer.
Yeah, and Novikov is right there with Burton, too, so it's a 4-car battle for second right now.
Great to see the top, really second through fourth, it looks like, separated by less than a second the last time by. We'll see how close they are this time. Charlie Luck, a very experienced driver, actually ran some NASCAR Busch Series races back in the 80s. Took some time away from racing and has done some single-make Porsche racing with this Wright Motorsports team in recent years, and now saw GT America as a great opportunity to take the next step, and here he is, looking really strong in the early going. Just half a second behind Jason Daskelos for second overall, plus Charlie holding the Masters class lead.
Yeah, it looks like the Porsche gains ground through about turn 2 to 4, and now the Audi stretches out a little bit through the carousel and down to turn 7.
That's one of the fascinating things about sports car racing. Yes, you have the balance of performance to equalize lap time, but different cars, they'll make that lap time in different places, and so you'll see that ebb and flow over the course of a lap.
And that's what makes it so interesting. And also, the drivers really have to strategize. How can I use my strength or the other car's weakness to get by? And they really have to think it through.
Daskelos leading Luck, leading Novikov, leading Burton. Novikov and Burton are both racing out of the Reardon Racing stable. Both have experience running Lamborghini equipment before, but not at this level. Great to see them making this step. Big step for the team. I talked to Laura Talbot in the offseason. She acknowledged there's a lot of investment that goes into stepping up to GT3 racing from GT4, where they've been primarily the last couple of years, in addition to some touring car entries.
Yeah, it is a big step for them, and it's great to, again, you see the ladder program that SRO can give you. They started as a touring car team, made their way to GT4, now they're with the GT3 cars. So it's great to see Reardon making that jump.
At the back of this pack, we saw also Jason Harward creeping into the mix, which we saw him aggressive on the opening lap, passing Kyle Washington. Here we go back to GT4, though. That's Sean Quinlan, the leader, coming through. Now we have the fight for second. Rob Holland in the Mustang, and Jason Bell still right there in his tire tracks. Joe, you've got experience racing at this track. It has a reputation for being difficult to pass at, but it can be done. If you were in Jason Bell's shoes, where are you looking to make the attack?
Well, I would be waiting a little bit. I think the Mustang's a little bit of a heavier car. So I'd be trying to do kind of what Jason Bell's doing. Be in the mirrors, try to let Rob waste the tires a little bit more, let the degradation happen, and then kind of set them up for a pass. The classic places to pass here are into the 2 hairpins, turn 7 and 11. So those are the classic places to pass, and that's most likely how it'll get done.
They're approaching the first of those here in just a moment out of the carousel. That's turn 6. Turn 7 is just up the road, followed by 7A. That's the numbering system here at this track. This is 7. They swing it out wide, and now a bend back to the right here for 7A. You can see the number of different varieties that they have down in this part of the track. Different series use the different layouts, but this is the one that SRO has settled on. As we go back to the overall leader, George Kurtz out in front by a sizable margin. And let's get down to Amanda Busick in the pit lane, who has an update.
Well, Ryan, you guys were just talking about the importance of turn 7 for potential passing. Well, George Kurtz is looking to defend in that area. I just talked to his engineer about his performance today. He's excited about George in this new series. But guys, this is a race, but they're also thinking about qualifying position for tomorrow.
And that's a really good point, Amanda. Thank you. Some of our series, especially the 2-driver formats, you have a pair of 15-minute qualifying sessions. The first one sets the grid for race 1, the second one for race 2. But in the single-driver format, like here in GT America, TC America, powered by Skip Barber as well, you see instead the fastest lap from the race dictating the starting grid for the following day's race. So good point about looking for lap time here and keeping qualifying in mind. This is Tim Pappas. Mentioned at the start of the show that this Black Swan Racing car did not get out for qualifying this morning. Wasn't quite able to get to the bottom of what happened there. Hopefully we can get an update as well. We got a big move here. That's Charlie Luck on the attack, looking to the outside of Daskalos. Meanwhile, here comes Novikov able to sweep by, and it looks like problems here for Daskalos in the Audi.
Yeah, it sure does. It looks like when he was going to make a shift, something happened, and they all squirted by. But a little scary for a second with Charlie Luck, but he made a good move, showed his experience there by getting by.
That was good driving. You don't expect a car to slow there when they should normally be getting back to speed. Let's see if Daskalos makes the move to pit lane, and he does. So hopefully Amanda can get down there and get an update on what might be troubling this car. Let's see a replay of this. Look how close this was. All of a sudden, that Audi just off the pace, and that was a close moment there for Dmitry Novikov.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that it was a gear. Who knows what it really was, but he just stalled. He just lost his momentum, and doesn't look like he's got power now, so he could have just lost power as well.
Quickly to put a bow on the Black Swan discussion, one thing that's worth noting is that team is running that same chassis, not just here in GT America, but also in Pirelli GT4 America, where it'll be shared between Tim Pappas and Jerome Bleekemolen. And so if there's a problem, it doesn't just affect them in one series, but two. They expect to take delivery of a second Cayman chassis ahead of our next round at Circuit of the Americas for that very reason. But unfortunately, it wasn't possible for here this weekend at Sonoma. So we wish them the best. So hopefully they don't take a double whammy here in the opening weekend of the season. Big slide there from Novikov, and he goes off track. Hope he doesn't get stuck up on those curbs. Looks like he's able to extricate himself, but you can see just how wet the grass is. Big rain shower overnight. No grip to be found with these slick tires.
Yeah, he was trying to correct himself. He got on the grass, and there's no way after that rain last night. Here's a replay, Ryan.
Now loose already on the exit there, and just couldn't quite correct it. I was afraid he was going to get high-sided on those blue and gold curbs, but fortunately he was able to get off of that, and hopefully we'll be able to resume. It's a real shame because he had a good run going up to third overall and second in the Masters class before that mishap.
Yeah, he's rolling again, so that's good to see. He's going through the chicane now down towards turn 10. So glad that he's got it going again.
And we'll see what happens when he comes around, how far he's fallen down. This is Jason Daskalos in the pits. Started on the outside of the front row. I'm not sure what that clap was for. I'm afraid that might have been a bit on the sarcastic side. I'm sure that's very frustrating to be called to pit lane. In a sprint racing series like this, if you come to the pits, that's about it. You're going to have a hard time recovering from something like that.
Yeah, you're pretty much done, and it's not the first time we've seen a driver be sarcastic. So he's probably going to go out there and see if he can improve his lap time to get a better starting spot for tomorrow.
And that's exactly right. As we talked about earlier, Amanda brought up the point that fastest lap in this race sets the grid for tomorrow's race. So even if trying to recover positions is out of the question, you still can go a long way to salvaging the weekend. So Jeff Burton now has moved up to third overall, second in the Masters class. Harward is just behind in another Lamborghini from Zelus Motorsports. And Kyle Washington now up to fifth overall, and in the overall category as opposed to the Masters category for this class.
Yeah, Jeff Burton, he had some wins last year in GT4 Sprint X races. And I think this format will really see him. He tries to run as much as he can in every class he can. It seems like kind of like Bell, who ran every race series we had except DC America last year. So third place for Burton is pretty strong.
Yep, that's where he finished in points in the GT4 America Sprint Championship in the AM class last year. Picked up a win there and drove alongside Vesko Kozarov in the Sprint X category. Here's Sean Quinlan out in front of the GT4 class and looking very, very strong. He had built that lead up to over 3 seconds the last time by. Behind him, Holland and Bell continue to fight over second. That's been a really fun battle to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he missed the apex there. I'm not sure what happened, but it's been fun to watch Quinlan progress over the last few years. He's improved every year, and now he's really showing it to the GT4 competition.
One thing to keep in mind, speaking to the BMW M4 GT4 teams up and down the paddock, they feel like their platform in particular really struggles with tire life over the course of a stint. They feel pretty good on single lap pace. Not great. They don't think this is the best track for the BMW, but I was told by one of the teams they expect over the course of a stint nearly 6 seconds of drop-off from a fresh tire to a used Pirelli P0. And again, this has nothing to do with Pirelli. That's just Sonoma Raceway. No matter what series you come out here, tire life is a topic of conversation because of the track surface around this place.
Yeah, I imagine that the team manager, Steve Cameron, is probably reminding Quinlan of that fact since he's got a considerable lead.
Now, we saw a look at Tim Pappas there. Unfortunately, it looks like day done for Tim, and I hope that they can resolve whatever the issue might be, because, again, that is the same chassis they're going to be using in Pirelli GT4 America later on today and throughout the weekend, for that matter. A look in here, the number 11 car, that's Phil Bloom. He's got Ross Schwest right behind and Adam Adelson behind that. Really close fight. This is just behind that battle for second, which is becoming, I think, a 3-car battle there. Alex Welch has left this fight behind him and is right there in the mix. You can see him in the back of the shot. Really great job, though, by Rob Holland. He's had a lot of pressure on his back bumper throughout the course of this stint, and he's been undeterred by it to this point. Why don't we go down to Amanda for an update, I believe, on Tim Pappas.
Yeah, guys, he actually made contact with Elias Sobo in turn 7. There was damage to the steering, which has taken Tim Pappas out of the race.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that. Again, this is a brand new series in the SRO America umbrella. Single driver racing, sprint racing, restricted to FIA bronze level drivers to give them a chance to race against their peers, but mixed class racing too, which is really fun with GT3, although homologated slightly differently for SRO America, GT America competition, and then the GT4 cars, which continue to conform to the global GT4 spec. It really does make for an interesting combination, and it's going to be fun to watch this develop over the course of the year. Really exciting that in the first year, the first weekend of this series, there's been such buy-in. It's a really exciting class with some great car count here for a series making its debut.
It is really good to see, and as we say that, I expect George Kurtz to catch the back of the field sometime this lap. As we continue to watch, it looks like the battle for second is getting closer as well, as Holland is still holding him off, but Bell is right there on his bumper through the chicane.
Yeah, really closes in under braking, doesn't he? But Holland is a savvy veteran, that's for sure. Here you go, you mentioned it, at the back of the field, our overall leader now coming through some of the slower GT4 traffic, and they're in a battle of their own at the moment, so George is going to have to be really patient. Matt Dalton taking a look up the inside of Miller there. That is back for the 9th spot, and Dalton gets it done. Now Kurtz is going to wait for his opportunity, working the long way around in turn 10, and he'll be held up. Oh, that's unexpected. George Kurtz to pit lane from the lead, and here it is, a drive-through penalty for a false start. I mentioned at the beginning he got a jump, and as far as the stewards are concerned, it was a bit too soon. Let's take a look here at the replay. You see what a jump he got. Maybe just a little bit before that the start zone. They are told where they're allowed to get to throttle, where they can't. That's going to be costly for George because it's about a 45-second delta from pit in to pit out at the 50 kph pit lane speed limiter, and you see him dropping positions now. This should drop him outside of the top 5 overall.
Yeah, Charlie Luck, as you saw right around the bend in the pits, Charlie Luck took the lead in that Porsche, so the Porsche now leads Charlie Luck over Harvard. Burton is 3rd. We'll see where Kurtz comes out. I think he's probably going to be maybe 6th, would be my best guess. He has the speed, though. He had a 20-second gap as that happened. So I would say it might be fun to watch his charge back up to Luck. We'll watch the segment times and the overall lap times to see, in fact, if Kurtz has got the speed to get back up into that fight for the top 5.
I'm going to suggest that George Kurtz may not have ever had an overall pole in SRO America competition. He's had class poles before, but to actually lead the field to the green, that might have been new for him. So a bit of a learning experience there, it would appear. He's down in the 5th spot. Dmitry Novikov also in the pit lane at the moment. That, too, is unexpected. We saw him have the spin earlier, and I do wonder if that might have been related. As we take a look at his teammate, Jeff Burton, who has been passed now by Jason Harward, who has made his way up to 2nd overall. First pro race, and look at this. Running in sight of the lead with half the race still remaining.
Yeah, that's an incredible job by Harwood so far. My bet is when he went off in the grass, Novikov that is, he might have gotten grass in that front grill area as he was sliding around. So that would be my guess there. The Harwood car is really an interesting paint job too.
It is, and I actually got an interesting nugget about that. I was told that every color that a Lamborghini road car could come in is represented in this paint scheme.
Oh, wow.
So how about that? It is eye-catching, and actually Charlie Luck is too. And I always appreciate that from a broadcaster's perspective. It helps us know who we're looking at.
One thing I think is great about having the mixed classes with the bronze level drivers is it really teaches them a lot. I mean, all these guys want to improve their driving skills, and I think everyone's goal is to be a platinum driver. Well, they have to learn how to navigate now with other types of cars. And what I mean by slower cars, and slower cars deal with the faster cars. So it's really interesting to watch them grow throughout the season, learning how to deal with traffic.
It's a great laboratory for them to hone their craft. Watching George Kurtz, who has recovered up to 4th now. Looks like Daskalos is back in the pit lane. He had issues earlier and returned to the track, but now back in the pits for the 2nd time. So his disappointing day, unfortunately, continues. But George Kurtz 15 seconds down on the class lead, and the overall lead for that matter. It's going to be interesting to see if he can recover and how much he can recover in the remaining 18 minutes. But now the fight for the lead heating up. Jason Harward from Alpine, Utah, wheeling in Charlie Luck at the front of this field, and they're going to have lap traffic to deal with here, most likely on this or the next lap with some GT4 cars just up the road.
And we've got, how much time? We got 17 minutes left. Kurtz is in 4th. I think he's running faster lap times than the leader, so that's something we'll keep an eye on. He's now into turn 11 now as they go into turn 1. So we'll keep an eye on Kurtz for you as Luck goes by the GT4 traffic into turn 2.
It's Dan Miller in an ST Racing car that he makes his way by there. To your point about George Kurtz's pace, his best lap is the fastest lap of the race so far, so that would have him on pole for tomorrow's race. Most likely that will hold up because of the tire drop-off we've been talking about. But his best lap was 2 seconds faster than the best that Charlie Luck has run, a 1.5 seconds quicker than Jason Harwood's best lap. So, yeah, keep an eye on George Kurtz. He's going to be flying through this field. Sean Quinlan has only expanded his lead. It's now 6.2 seconds over Rob Holland, but it continues to be tight behind. This is probably as much breathing room as Rob has had all race long, and part of it, I think, probably has to do with the fact that Bell is now under attack from Alex Welch, who has tracked them down. But up front, fight for the overall lead. Charlie Luck, Jason Harward up at the front of this field, able to clear that lap traffic a little bit better than Jeff Burton, who's lost some ground here in the last lap.
Yeah, Charlie Luck and Harward did definitely get away from them, and they are so interesting to watch because the Lamborghini is really good through the S's.
Here's a comparison in the best lap times and the last lap time. So that's George Kurtz trying to track down Jeff Burton for the final overall podium position. Down just a little ways on the road. 15 minutes remaining. Fight at the front continues to be strong, and around goes Burton there in the hairpin. Turn 11. That's a dangerous place to be. George Kurtz coming around, going to pick up that spot. Jeff Burton needs to recover. While he does so, let's get down to Amanda.
Well, Ryan, as you were talking, they do feel that the qualifying for tomorrow has been set. They do feel that the peak performance on the tire is done, so they're pretty comfortable with that pole position tomorrow. But right now, the goal is to continue to gain experience for George. Let him be out there, feel more comfortable with the track in preparation for round 2.
And this is very valuable experience for George because he will also be racing a Mercedes-AMG GT3 and GT World Challenge America. Back to the Jeff Burton spin. What do you see here, Joe?
It just looks like he's carrying too much speed, and he gets on the painted area, and there's not as much grip usually on that paint, and maybe gets to the throttle a little too soon, and around she goes.
Jeff was able to resume, has dropped behind Kyle Washington now to 5th overall. So hopefully he will be able to recover from that miscue. Charlie Luck has built that advantage here to nearly a second over Harward, and I don't know if traffic had something to do with it or it's just the pace in the Porsche looking after its tires a little bit better, but Harward able to close down under braking just a moment ago. He's getting closer, but so is this man, George Kurtz, able to pass Matt Dalton in one of the GT4 Aston Martins.
Yeah, last lap, Kurtz was almost 3 seconds faster, as you can see on the screen there. So he made up a lot of ground. There's only 14 minutes to go, but he may have enough time to get there.
I think he does. 11 seconds was the gap the last time by. If he can continue at that rate, he should get to them. Then passing them's a different story. Let's check the gap at the line here. Kurtz across the stripe, and the gap down to 9.8. George Kurtz is on the move.
Yeah, he is. And you can see him as he goes through turn 2 up and over the hill. You can see his red gloves sawing at the wheel. He's giving everything he has. You know, Amanda talked about the tires not being at their top shape anymore, but he's giving it everything he can because I'm sure he believes that he can catch Charlie Luck.
And I'm sure his crew is telling him that too. If you have that belief that it can be done, it's good motivation. And as soon as he can see Charlie and Jason out of the window, that's all the motivation you need. It's like waving a red flag at a bull, right?
Absolutely.
When you see your quarry just up the road. Sean Quinlan continuing to lead the GT4 class, looking very strong at the front. 6 seconds the gap. It's been pretty stable here over the last 3 or 4 laps over Rob Holland. I think he's just looking after that BMW. Here is Rob, and Alex Welch now behind. So Alex has made the pass on Jason Bell, able to grab the final podium spot for GT4. Ross Schwess there in the GT4 Mercedes, with some pressure from behind from Adam Adelson, newcomer to the championship.
It looks like they both got by Bloom over the last couple laps. And Charlie Luck is going to be in some traffic here soon. And Kurtz is hoping that they can slow him down a little bit. He'll actually probably catch this group right here within about a lap and a half.
Cool story on Adam Adelson, by the way. And the team that's running him, based out of Las Vegas, Premier Racing, Kent Moore, the team principal. He was the crew chief for the White Lightning Racing team back in the day, back in the early 2000s, that won at Le Mans, won at Daytona. He has this prep shop he's been running in Las Vegas. And if you remember those White Lightning cars, they had that neon yellow on parts of them. Well, look at this Premier Porsche that's just behind. Look at the roof, look at the wing. There's a reason for that. That is channeling the old White Lightning livery. And Adam is a newcomer, but he's got some really high aspirations, wants to get to Le Mans one day. And Kent Moore wants to take Adam there. And looking really strong in his first pro race at the moment, putting a lot of pressure on that Mercedes, just locking up the wheels slightly. You saw the tire smoke. These two are pushing these GT4 cars to the absolute limit. You see it separated there on the screen to your left. That battle for 5th in GT4 is hot.
And here comes the leaders right behind him. Charlie Luck is now looking to the inside of Adelson.
He's going to be held up here in the chicane. That might give Harward a chance into the hairpin, turn 11. Let's see. Charlie Luck ducks to the inside. Harwood right in the slipstream, but he's going to be patient here this time. They will clear Adelson. The door opens as Schwest runs wide. really benefited Charlie Luck. He did not get held up on corner exit at all, and he's able to open that gap ever so slightly.
Yeah, he opened it up by about 5 car lengths just by having that clean shot out.
Meanwhile, George Kurtz has the gap down under 5 seconds. 4.7 at the stripe. There he is. They're in the same picture now, but lap traffic still for George to negotiate, and that's going to hold him up a little bit there. Trying to get past, I think that was Bloom in the BMW, able to do that. Now down the hill here into turn 4, the right-hand bend, out to the blue and gold rumble strips on the edge of the track, painted that way on the suggestion of track general manager Steve Page, who is a UC Berkeley alum, and of course that is the Cal Bears colors. A little different than the normal candy striping. Here's George now through that battle we were talking about in the GT4 class, using the horsepower of the Mercedes. And we'll see, can Adelson make the move by? He might, because using that crossover there as Chouest ran wide in the braking zone.
Yeah, Adelson looked like he used Kurtz as not really as a pick, but to gain some speed, and that kind of shook Chouest a little bit, and he went wide.
Fight for the overall lead, heating up. Harward right on the rear wing of Charlie Luck, under 10 minutes to go, and the charging George Kurtz is watching this play out in front of him. He's been pulling them in, definitely held up by lap traffic on this lap. Only one lap car, though, in between George Kurtz and these two, fighting for the overall lead. Luck a little bit wide on the exit of the hairpin, able to get back to power, though. One of the strengths traditionally of this Porsche, the rear engine, sitting over the drive wheels. Able to get the jump there, around turn 12, and up the hill for turn 1 once again.
And Kurtz has no traffic, at least right now. He can see that rear wing of that Lamborghini. He's coming. It's 2.1 seconds back to Kurtz from Charlie Luck.
This is as close as it has been, and remember, if you're just joining us, George Kurtz, pole sitter, built a massive lead, but got a drive-through for effectively jumping the start, a false start at the initial start of this race, has recovered to be right back in the mix. Taking a look at Stephen Cameron there on top of the Stephen Cameron Racing box, looking after our GT4 leader, Sean Quinlan, back in 6th overall. There we go once again. Harward looking to the inside of Luck. Can't get the job done on the exit of the carousel. I think it might have held them both up, because here comes George. George Kurtz on the attack. Luck defensive there, heading into turn 7. Now through 7A, and George is well and truly there. Rob Holland in the second place running GT4 car is up the road, and this is a tough place to get behind an out-of-class car. Really a single line through this S's portion of the racetrack. Nowhere for Rob to hide, and this has brought the battle for the lead right together. George Kurtz up the inside of Harward. Can he get this into the hairpin? Make that the chicane? No, he can't. Now it's Harward on the attack. He's to the outside of Charlie Luck, gets shoved a bit wide, has his hands full, but pulls it back in. That allows George Kurtz to attack. Great battle at the front of the field in the first ever GT America race. Kurtz to second around Harward.
That was some great dicing in there. They were using that lap traffic to try to take advantage of one another. It looks like Kurtz managed to use that finally into turn 11.
Oh, that's why we love multi-class racing. It's a skill to get through traffic like that. George Kurtz played it perfectly, laid on the brakes as they climbed the hill in turn 2. He can see the lead. He has not held it in some 15 minutes, but Charlie Luck is just ahead.
Just a little over 6.5 minutes to go. We've got the top 3 runners running within a second of each other. Can't really ask for more in the debut race for this category.
Now Charlie Luck is in that Masters class, so this is not the battle for a class lead, but it is the battle for the overall lead. You better believe Charlie Luck would love it if he can get it. George Kurtz through the carousel. He's been really strong for this part of the track. One of the great passing zones that Joe talked about a moment ago. Turn 7, not close enough to get it done this time. GT4 class leader just up the road, and they're going to get held up in that same part of the track, it looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if all 3 can get through into the chicane. It looks like the Lamborghini may not be able to this time because it's too far back. Through this right-hander now into the chicane. Looks like Kurtz, they touched.
Kurtz smells blood, 3 wide into the chicane. Kurtz to the inside, the preferred line, gets it done. Harward on the attack now. Sees blood in the water. Works his way for the second time to the outside of Luck. They'll be side by side. A little bit of a hip check there. And Harward has to back out of it.
Again, multi-class racing creates so much, but how about the drive for George Kurtz from, he was, 15 seconds back with 10 minutes to go, and he's now leading again.
That'll have him flying high with a GT World Challenge America race still to come this afternoon. I'm sure his driver coach Colin Brown is loving what he's seeing. Harward a little bit wide there in one. Not sure if that was an attack or just chasing the rear of that race car. Lost some ground, so I'm going to guess the latter, and that gives a little bit of breathing room for Charlie Luck in the fight for second overall. To reset, by the way, Quinlan continues to lead in GT4. The lead, though, has come down a little bit. 4.5 seconds back to Holland now. Welch is a further 1.2 seconds back in third. Jason Bell dropping off a little bit. Very strong start to the race, and you wonder if he might have used up that Pirelli rubber.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way, and it looks like Quinlan is maybe suffering a little bit right now from that, trying to hold on for the last 4 minutes. We'll see if Rob Holland has saved anything. He's just 4.5 seconds back, and we'll look at their lap times over the last few minutes.
Top speeds there up on the screen. Race Vision powered by AWS, bringing some excellent insights using their cloud technology. Love having this on board with us for the second straight year. Meanwhile, let's get an update on Jason Daskalos, who had a couple of calls to pit lane. Started from the outside of the front row, but the day has gone sour from there, Amanda.
Yeah, that is the case, Ryan. Unfortunately, I spoke to one of his crew guys, Mark. There was damage on the Audi on the rear right to the tire, as well as the wheel side on the rear right. They just felt that it wasn't safe, so they ended up bringing Jason in, and that caused the day for him.
Thank you for the update. I'm sorry to see it, and yeah, there you can see the reaction from Jason. Longtime competitor in this series going back 15 years. Not always running full seasons, but great to have him back in the paddock. Made a return after a number of years away last year as part of GT Sports Club, running, I believe, this same Audi. And not a great start to the year this year, but the good news is they get to do it all over again tomorrow, and that's another reason not to take any risks if you're not quite sure what the condition of the car might be.
Yeah, I mean, there's another race tomorrow. Might as well save it if you can. Yeah, that's a great strategy by them to make sure they can be there tomorrow. Sean Quinlan is slowing a little bit, and Holland has got that lead down a little bit more. He was about 0.6 of a lap quicker on that last lap. I don't know he's going to have enough time, though.
Yeah, only 2.5 minutes remaining in this race. Quinlan, by the way, had a couple of good runs here at this track last year. He ran both Sprint and Sprint X in Pirelli GT4 America, had a podium in each at this racetrack, finished third a couple of times. Got a problem there for one of the Audis going wide. Is that Welch?
I can't catch the number yet, but yeah, that Steve Cameron BMW, by the way, they're based here at Cirrus Point, so this is their home track. So Quinlan's got a lot of laps here. Looks like he's trying to get back on, maybe trying to get to a safe place, because that's exit of turn 7, or turn 6, sorry.
I'm not certain, so I don't mean to alert anybody who might be an Alex Welch fan, but that was my guess, and if so, he was running third in GT4. We'll have to try and get that confirmed. I'm sure as the lap cycle up through, we'll have a better idea of what exactly was going on there. Little mixed class racing going on here. Fourth overall, Kyle Washington able to make the move here to the side of second place in GT4, Rob Holland.
Yeah, and it was Welch. It was number 76. That's off. And we're looking at Rob Holland now as he's heading his way through turn 1 up to turn 2. He's trying to see if he can catch the leader in GT4, that's Quinlan. It looks like he may have taken a little bit more time up, but I think he's running out of time.
Well, really sorry to see that for Alex Welch, who is a former class champion in SRO America and was running third. Something went wrong here in the final minutes. George Kurtz out in front, less than a minute to go, and has really extended that lead over these two, Charlie Luck and Jason Harward, running second and third. Really tight stuff. Wright Motorsports, longtime Porsche team. Zelus Motorsports, brand new Lamborghini team. It'll be Madison Snow driving along with Jason later in the season in GT World Challenge America. A couple of Utah natives linked up. Should be white flag this time by for George Kurtz, who's coming around to pass Gray Newell in the Heart of Racing Aston Martin. Gray very new to this, had spent last year testing in preparation for this. He'll be teaming up with Ian James in Pirelli GT4 America competition, but logging some valuable laps here, and actually checkered flag this time by. George Kurtz picks up the first ever race win in GT America powered by AWS. Congratulations to George Kurtz, a great comeback drive after a drive-through penalty at the midway point of this race, able to recover and picks up the overall win. Well done. Sean Quinlan looking to win in the GT4 category. Across the stripe, and your first winner in GT4 in GT America is the Stephen Cameron Racing driver. 6th overall as well for the top-running GT4 machine. Charlie Luck able to hold off Harward, by the way, to lock down 2nd overall, but crucially 1st in the Masters class. Harward 3rd overall, 2nd in class, with Washington 3rd in the overall class, while Jeff Burton 5th overall and 2nd in the Masters division. The rest of the podium in GT4, Sean Quinlan, Rob Holland, and Jason Bell able to recover after the issues there from Alex Welch, and he picks up a coveted podium finish. Tell you what, you look at the bronze level talent in both of these categories, GT3 and GT4, and there is a lot of it. If you get a good result against peers like this, you'll have earned it over the course of the 2021 campaign.
Yeah, you really will, and it was fun to see the mix of classes. And also an honor to be in the first inaugural race in this format for GT America.
Well, I cannot wait to hear from George Kurtz. This is a man who takes this very seriously. In addition to the win, he is able to log the CrowdStrike fastest lap, a 140.170. That secures for him the pole in tomorrow's race as well. So a lot of good things coming George Kurtz's way here in the opening day of racing for GT America powered by AWS. And fitting, it is the CrowdStrike car that picks up the CrowdStrike fastest lap. But as I was saying, this is a man who really takes his racing seriously, really passionate about it. Made the trip over to Spa last year and ran the Total 24 Hours of Spa alongside Colin Brown and a couple of other European-based drivers for the SPS Automotive team, and has aspirations of getting back there again this year. There he is out of the car, receiving congratulations, and certainly deserves it. Anytime you pick up a win, it's special, but to come back from a drive-through, I'm sure he was upset with himself for picking it up in the first place.
I'm sure he was upset with himself, and I'm sure he didn't feel he did it, but he was able to overcome, and that's what it takes sometimes. And, you know, Charlie Luck, first time out with us in a long time. So good to see him come and win the Masters, finish 2nd overall. And the newcomer, Harward, I'm impressed with him. I think you'll watch him grow as the season goes on. And I think he needs to, learn a little more racecraft. And you can see he was taking some chances that maybe he won't in the future. And he'll set the passes up more and move his way up.
Well, that's what this series is for in a lot of respects, gaining that valuable experience in cars like these. And the idea is you step up into GT World Challenge America one of these days. And for Jason, who does not have pro-level racing experience, really not afraid to take a big bite out of it, jumping straight into GT3 as we look at the unofficial results following race 1 of the weekend. As mentioned, George Kurtz fastest, winner in the Masters division, Charlie Luck, coming from Single Make Porsche Racing and looking really comfortable in his first outing in GT3. Jason Harward, Kyle Washington, and Jeff Burton, the top 5, followed by your winner in GT4. I imagine Sean Quinlan's going to be a happy camper. He's another very enthusiastic guy who has come a long way in the last couple of years. More on that in a moment, but first, let's get down to Amanda.
Guys, off camera, he just said, I had to win this twice. George, after serving that drive-through penalty, you entered back on the track in the 4th position. What pushed you to get this podium here today?
Well, we had speed all weekend, and it was really demoralizing to get the penalty. No driver is going to agree with some of that stuff, but it is what it is, right? So I just put my head down and said, we got to get back in the P1 and win this thing like we should have.
Did you have a feeling you could get back into that 1st position?
I had a feeling I could get back, and really it was the traffic that I had in mind. If the traffic cooperated and held up the guys a little bit up front, I think I had the lap time to just chip away and, just get it done with a few laps left, which is what happened.
And with the fastest lap, you'll start from P1 tomorrow.
There we go. Thank you.
And you could tell how much that meant to him. No racer's going to agree with the penalty, right? You don't ever hear anyone say, yep, I did it, that was me. That's where the penalty came, right there on the start. The stewards ruled he got going a bit too quick. We didn't know that, though, until about halfway through the race, so just able to jump out to a great lead here on the initial start. George Kurtz in the 0-4, Jason Daskalos running 2nd. Great fights, though, throughout this field, and I think that is what caused the problems for Tim Pappas. Damage there after that contact. All right, mystery solved there. Big moment for Jason Daskalos, and Dmitry Novikov had to split him along with Charlie Luck. And Daskalos, unfortunately, had some serious problems after that and was out of the race early. That's Novikov going for a spin. Here's George Kurtz serving that drive-through penalty, as noted, making his way down pit lane. But this was the move of the race. Flashing the lights as he's going by. George Kurtz to P1 with a power move through the chicane and onto the front stretch to take that crucial checkered flag. Here's the reaction. A very happy guy. Another happy guy is standing by with Amanda. That is our Masters class winner, Charlie Luck.
Oh, yeah, and I think it's just really seeking in for Charlie, but you pick up the win at the inaugural GTA race here in Sonoma. What does that mean to you?
Oh, my gosh. We've spent 4 years in GT3 Cup racing, and this was a big step up for us, no doubt about it. And frankly, I didn't know how well I could do. And I just would encourage everybody, if you have a dream, chase it. Whatever that is, whatever makes you tick, chase it. So we're just totally over the moon. I would say definitely one of my better races. I've only been in this car 1 race now, and very different than the Cup car. So anyway, but just totally excited to be part of SRO, and excited for all the sponsors, and just super weekend.
And guys, with tears in his eyes, dreams fulfilled here in Sonoma.
Oh, that's fantastic. And the message certainly resonates with me here this week. And congratulations to you there, Charlie. Really well done here today. Was embroiled in a great fight throughout the race with Jason Harward and was able to come out on top in that battle. Not enough for George Kurtz, but hey, there's always tomorrow.
Well, and it's a Masters division, so that means he's a little bit older. He can really appreciate what that accomplishment means, and that's why he's emotional about it. A lot of hard work, a lot of dedication by all sorts of people to let him do this, and he's appreciating it very much.
Cool to see the 9th place driver in the 1986 NASCAR Busch Series standings coming through with a win here at Sonoma. Down to Amanda once again.
Well, I think you guys can see the smile underneath the mask of Sean Quinlan. You pick up the win here in Sonoma. How satisfying is that?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. This is my home track, and the BMW is not the best car at this track, but we managed to get a bit of a lead and then maintain it, and then the tires started going off, but we managed to keep it. So it was a ton of fun. A bit lonely out there, but I'll take it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, a great way to get the GT America powered by AWS season started. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for tuning in.